The Tour of Flanders, the Ronde van Vlaanderen, is for many fans the hardest monument of all, since you have to combine multiple skills on the flat with climbing on the pavé to get to victory. Experience shows us that throughout history all kinds of riders have won the competition, from legendary tour leaders like Gianni Bugno, to hustlers like Jackie Durant, or usual suspects like Alberto Bettiol. However, there have been several cyclists throughout history who have been unusually good in this competition. Do you want to know who they are? Well, without any further ado, let the show begin. Johan Museeuw, known as the Lion of Flanders, this legendary Belgian cyclist was the real dominator of the 90s of the classics on the pavé. Something normal, considering how doped he was, with an explosive cocktail of EPO and growth hormones, according to his own confessions. No more and no less than 8 times he stood on the podium of his home race. The first time in 1991 when he finished second, 45 seconds behind the winner, Edwig van Hooijdonk. His first victory came 2 years later, attacking from distance and beating Dutchman Frans Maassen. And he beat him in the sprint wearing the Belgian champions jersey and riding for Giancarlo Ferretti's GBMG. Quite frankly, the best classics team in history, if you ask me. In 1995, already in the Mapei ranks, he won again, despite having a flat on the Padestrat, catching the escaped Fabio Baldato and attacking on the mythical Kappelmuur, back when it was decisive to break away alone for the victory. 3 years later, he won again in the first edition starting in Bruges, again breaking away alone to show who was the strongest man, thanks to those wasps that jabbed him so much in his glorious years. He would still get a podium in 2002 at the age of 36, and the only reason that he didn't win was due to a tactical mistake against the Italian Andrea Taffi. As you can see, a true legend. Gianluca Bortolami. This well-built Italian cyclist was one of the classic riders of the 1990s, taking advantage of the magical year 1994 of that epocha to become the winner of the former World Cup, and at the same time finished 13th in the Tour de France, where he was climbing with the best. Strange combinations from a man who coincided with Museeuw in Mapei's histrionic 1996 Paris-Roubaix hat-trick. And while he was a good competitor with as many as 33 victories to his credit, none was as beastly as the 2001 Tour of Flanders, where he took the fastest victory in history. At 33 years of age, the rider of the then legendary Vinnie Calderola team acted intelligently and broke into the breakaway of 8 riders, none of them big favourites, but all who knew how to collaborate with each other to ride at 43.6 km per hour on average, and beat the group of Museeuw and Schmiel amongst others. In the sprint, this Italian, who had saved his strength for the end of the race, managed to beat Eric Decker and Rolf Sørensen at his young tender age for a legendary victory. 2 years later, this doped rider tested positive for corticosteroids, as a good client of Michele Ferrari does. Tom Boonen. For many cycling fans, one of the best riders of the 21st century, and a Belgian heritage in sport. Down to earth, tall, handsome, and playing with the snow as if he were Elsa or Anna from Frozen. This cyclist was the perfect evolution of Johan Museeuw for almost a decade. First podium and first victory in the 2005 edition, when at only 24 years old he withstood the attacks of Lance Armstrong himself before the Kappelmuur, and then launched a devastating attack on the Bosberg that led Patrick Lefevere's pupil to victory once again. The following year he won again in the company of his compatriot Leif Hoste. This was an edition in which there were numerous indications that Torpedo Tomica had bought the Discovery Channel rider to get his collaboration, and he beat him easily in the sprint. After several years of going over the steep berg, he took advantage of the suppression of the Kappelmuur in 2012, and he managed to win in that first decaffeinated edition in the sprint against the Italian alpha male Filippo Pozzato. 3 absolutely legendary triumphs, as you can see. Fabian Cancellara. Talking about Boonen without talking about Cancellara would be like talking about Ross without mentioning Rachel, or Will Smith without mentioning his slap to Chris Rock. Impossible. The Swiss vedette achieved her first spectacular victory in 2010, beating Boonen himself after escaping with him on the Molenberg with 44 to go and then leaving him stranded on the Moor. A performance that even caused suspicions of motorised doping by the UCI. The magic of Bjarne Riis's sons provided those advantages though, which gave him 2 more wins, with the highlight undoubtedly being the one in 2013, where after attacking on the Paterberg, he left Peter Sagan stranded like a cigarette butt. The following year he took the win again, this time in the sprint against a Greg Van Avermaet who still didn't have his 2016 superpowers, and a little turtle, Sepp van Mark. In the year of his retirement, he still tried to become the rider with the most wins in Flanders. But fortunately, Peter Sagan deprived us of the image of seeing the one who, well, evil tongues say that Classico Mana Luigi plays the role of Efo Miana Fuentes getting that historical record. Annemiek Van Vleuten. With 4 podiums and 2 separate wins within 10 years of each other, the Dutch Movistar rider is undoubtedly the most successful woman in the Ronde. The first of them, achieved in 2011 at the age of 28 on the old course and finishing in Marbella, was a sprint victory over Putin's daughter Tatiana Antoshina in the second year of her victories. She had to wait until 2021, at the tender age of 38 and under the guidance of the Museeuw family, to achieve a spectacular solo victory after an attack on the Paterberg 13 kilometres from the finish. A historic milestone that has even given her almost a full chapter in the Movistar documentary series, and that undoubtedly makes her the strongest woman in the history of the competition. Mathieu Van der Poel. But we could not leave without mentioning the latest great sensation of the world of cycling in these types of classics. 3 participations in the Tour of Flanders, and in all 3 he has finished in the top 4. This of course in the absence of knowing what will happen in the 2022 edition that we will see after having made this video. In the first of them, 2019, he failed to notice the attack of the assailant Bettiol and he had to settle for 4th place. But the following year he took revenge in the sweetest possible way, beating his arch-enemy Wout van Aert in the sprint in one of the most memorable competitions for fans in recent years. In 2021 he had to settle for 2nd place after falling apart in the relay effort and underestimating the radioactive Danish rider Kasper Asgreen, who ended up beating him at the finish line to everyone's surprise. 3 performances, each one better than the last in a competition that suits him like a glove. If anyone can beat that record of 3 wins, it's this good man, our grandson.